Hello, everybody, and welcome to F1 Unhinged. I am Josh,
And I'm Tyler.
and well, we had originally intended to do a podcast after the 24 Hours of Daytona, and then the weather decided to blanket half the country in snow. I got stuck in a bunch of airports. Life sucked. So we just kind of scrapped that whole episode, and it was chaos. It was an awesome weekend, but holy shit, have I never been so stressed out in my life traveling. Every day I was in Daytona, something happened, including on the days back where I cannot stress enough that I went through about 6 different flights in the same airport that I was supposed to be on, and none of them ended up being the one that I actually flew on.
That sounds about right.
I learned more about the aviation industry than I ever want to know in my life, and that I hope I never learn again. Because boy, did I have time. And so did a lot of other angry people at a very full airport that didn't have planes.
Yeah.
Well, technically had planes, but didn't have crew to be on those planes because of horrendous weather.
Yeah. And also probably the laws around flight crews and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, mostly because of that. Mostly because of the amount of time crews are allowed to be considered active. Similar to how truckers are, where you have an active period and you're not allowed to drive beyond that active period. Yep. It's the same thing with plane crews, obviously, for safety reasons, but it's also the same for your stewardess and everything like that. Everything involved with the cruise. So it was just a massive cluster, and I got home the next day, basically, by the time I got home. It was fun.
Sounds like so much fun.
Well, and then there was weather there because to anyone who tuned into the race, we had a 6-hour full course yellow period because the fog was so thick that the cars couldn't run at anything but caution pace. And even then, I'm surprised there weren't accidents because as I sent you videos from the track, Tyler, I've seen a lot of weather in my life. I have never seen fog so thick that it was 99% humidity and I was walking through what felt like wet rain clouds. It was like a Stephen King novel.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in The Mist or something. I got some amazing pictures that I don't think you'll ever be able to replicate. But woo, that was a unique experience.
Yeah,
Porsche still won.
Yes. My team, let's go. But no, you were sending me pictures while you were in the infield, and you're only maybe a football field and a half or 2 football fields away from the grandstands at that point, and you couldn't even see the grandstands.
Yeah. And at one point, I wish I would have got a picture of it, but it was 3 a.m. and my brain was tired. I was going on a coffee run to the gas station just outside the track. And as I was passing the start finish line, I decided to walk out to the stands. And from the main stands by the start line, you couldn't see the pit boxes. And that's wild. And I actually got to talk to the next day. Oddly enough, my Uber driver to the airport was a spotter for one of the teams who lives there, and it was the customer Porsche hypercar team, the JCD Motorsports or whatever they are. And you know, he was talking about conversations they have with their drivers, and it's like, look, I can't see you, which means somebody else's spotter can't see you either. So stay in line, don't move out of line. Whatever you do, make sure you're paying attention, because if I can't see you, nobody else's spotter can see you, which means their car's not going to know you're there.
Yeah.
And it was a wild experience. It was an awesome experience. It's something I'm glad I was there for in person, because I don't think I would have believed what anybody said about it if I didn't experience it for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I don't know. I wanted to stay up for the whole thing, but once it hit that 6-hour yellow period, I was like, I'm not staying up to watch cars go slowly around Daytona. Like, not gonna do it. But then you also surprised me with the fact that we're both gonna be there next year. So
Yeah. And I mean this seriously to anyone who is a fan of motorsport. You have to do it once in your life. You have to go to the 24 Hours of Daytona once in your life. I don't care what motorsport you're a fan of. If you're a MotoGP fan, a NASCAR fan, an F1 fan, it doesn't matter. You have to go see this once in your lifetime, because it's a life-changing experience. The access is amazing, but it's an entirely different environment than what anyone would expect. It is such a laid-back, great atmosphere. And so many of the people that are there are people who do this every year, and this is their vacation for the year. This is what they save up for all year. This is their pilgrimage. There are people who this is, and I am now one of those people that I've been multiple times, and I will do everything I can to be there every year, because it is an incredibly special experience. It really is. And eventually I'm going to go, and Porsche isn't going to win the whole damn thing, and that'll make me happy. It's yet to happen, because apparently I'm their freaking good luck charm. And Cadillac's bad luck charm, because I've went 2 of the last 3 years, and both times I've went Cadillac has lost barely. Barely. In a very close race at the end, an action that happened within the last 5 laps of the race. Both times Cadillac has lost. And I'm just like, oh man, I feel bad for you guys. But while we're talking about Cadillac, more feeling bad for Cadillac, let's talk about how shitty they were in testing.
Oh man. Oh man. I don't want to shit on anybody too bad, because we haven't even reached testing yet. But it was
I feel
not
like
great.
they deserve it. I feel like they deserve it.
It's like karma.
Yeah, when you come out and before your car has touched the track, you are talking crap about a partnership between Red Bull and Ford. And starting things like, look, I love somebody who's a punchy newcomer into a series. I really do. I've thought highly of the Cadillac idea and what they're trying to build, but you don't come out of the gate swinging at one of the kings of the sport like that before you've proven that you know how to run your car. And that's what happened to them in testing. And I feel like that's part of why people are being so hard on them. It's like, all right, you put a target on your back and your car keeps breaking.
True. Yeah. Yeah, they didn't look great. They definitely didn't look great. They weren't the only one that didn't look great, but you can't go out and call another team's partnership just a marketing ploy and then have the turnout that you did at this pre-testing session. Like,
yeah,
you can't do that.
Of the teams who were there for the entire test, they did the least laps. The only ones who did less laps than them were Aston, who only showed up for the last day, and Williams, who didn't show up at all.
Which we knew Williams wasn't going to show up for like a couple weeks beforehand, so.
And I feel like Aston's another one which, look, the design is cool. It looks like a cool car. But the Aston Martin Valkyrie looked really cool on track in Daytona, as it trundled around the back of the pack, nearly being lapped by the LMP2 field. It doesn't matter if the car looks and sounds cool.
It has
Does
to
it
perform
drive? Cool. Yeah. Like, we've seen plenty of cars that look cool that suck. Ferrari for the last 3 decades.
Don't get me started on Ferrari's livery, though. Ugh.
Oh, yeah.
But on top of Caddy's terrible issues in testing, Audi also didn't have a very good 3-day session.
And Audi's kind of another one where, like, granted, theirs was like little livery stuff, but they started poking and punching at Ferrari, which is all good and well. But first off, you made your livery sound like it was going to be a lot cooler than it was. And on track, I wasn't sure about it when it was revealed at their thing, but on track, it kind of sucks. It's really muted.
Yeah, I didn't even see any photos of it.
It looks like a matte finish that's not matte. It's really it's just kind of blah. And I don't know if you're going to talk crap about other teams. First off, your livery better be one of the best ones on the grid. And 2, your car should be able to do laps without braking. And it didn't. It really had a lot of problems, especially on the engine. And I really think people underestimate how difficult it is to build an engine for an F1 car. And I think Audi's getting a crash course in, oh man, things break a lot, don't they? And the only reason why it's a little worrying to me is Bernardo was telling us that they weren't going for performance because they wanted to make sure they were reliable before they worried about making a high performance engine. So if this was them playing it safe, what was the other option? Because playing it safe, that thing broke apart like we thought the Ferrari engine was going to.
True. Yeah, I mean, they have time before, Bahrain, but I don't know. I don't know if that's enough time. I don't know if it's enough time to make a big change that makes the engine not explode.
Maybe I'm just naive, but I kind of just expected more from these teams.
I mean, me too. 100%.
And look, I know I got the banner hanging up in the background, and I know I'm going to sound like a homer. And I'm fully aware of it. But meanwhile, look at what Red Bull's engine is.
Yeah.
They showed up and delivered on day one. Their engine is probably the second best engine. The Merc definitely has it. It looks like the Mercedes engine is strong, but the gap isn't as far as we thought it was going to be. And the Red Bull is punchy enough to where you even get George Russell talking about it a little bit of his surprise. And I think that says a lot because I think Russell came into this year with stars in his eyes that, hey, this is my chance to get my title. This is my chance to get that first title. A new rule set that's engine dependent. This is my chance to be Lewis. And he still looks extremely confident.
Yes.
He was very smiley, very happy. Didn't really see a whole lot of Kimmy. He did some interviews, but he was much quieter. But George looks like a guy that knows he's in a good car.
Yeah.
And it's what we expected from Mercedes, let's be real. We expected them to do pretty well in these regs. These regs are more their style of design.
Yeah. I still just don't want to talk good about Merc.
Neither do I. I don't want them to be good, but I have to accept that they probably built something that's going to be good.
Yeah.
At least at the start.
Yeah. Their car sounds great. Their car looked great. Not just livery wise, but performance wise from what we saw. And yeah, I will say
little that is available on performance because everyone's running times that are 5 seconds off the pace.
Yeah, and obviously it was blacked out, so there was no media allowed to be there. It wasn't televised or anything. I will say, with Merc seeming to be so good, that gives me a lot of hope for McLaren, because McLaren's running Mercedes engines, and they, from the tidbits of things that we saw, didn't look like they were having a bad time out there. It looks solid. And historically, in the last drags, McLaren built a better car than Mercedes did.
Yeah, 100%.
So if McLaren can capitalize on the car again and use Mercedes engines, I'm not worried about them at all.
Well, and I think Mercedes is actually doing McLaren a favor, which is, it's not often somebody wins both the drivers and constructors and then goes into the next season as an underdog. But that's kind of what's happened, and it's almost taken some of the pressure off of McLaren. Because normally you're world champion, like that's who you're excited to see in testing. And McLaren's kind of the story that got buried at the bottom of testing, where nobody's really talking about McLaren at all. And I think that's a massive benefit to them.
Oh, yeah. It definitely removes a lot of pressure in that regard.
Yeah, because you're not the place that all eyes are.
Which is odd, because anytime Red Bull won a championship, all eyes are on them immediately next season for everything. So,
well, but I think when you look at it, you have basically 2 new teams coming into the sport, 2 new engines because of the Red Bull engine coming in, plus everybody has new engines. So you're dealing with 2 new engine manufacturers, 2 new teams, one that isn't attached to one of those manufacturers. So 4 teams if you consider Racing Bulls, 4 teams that are either a new team or a new engine supplier. And almost a 5th with Aston with their Honda relationship. So there's a lot of places for eyes to go, because not only is it new regs, but there's a lot of new coming in. Yeah. And McLaren is kind of one of the few that's just like, yeah, we got a car, we got an engine. It's pretty standard. And I think that's going to help them a lot.
Absolutely. I like that things are fly by night for them right now. They don't have to over publicize anything. And make spacey statements that are too broad.
Yeah.
I do wish, though, and I mean, we've kind of blasted through most of this already pretty quickly, which is weird, but we've also not had a podcast in too many weeks. I do want to take a second to just bitch a little bit about the lack of coverage in Barcelona. Not because media didn't want to be there, but because media wasn't allowed to be there. And then also going into what Bahrain looks like for testing, because there's some new developments on top of the fact that we are only going to be able to see the last hour of each session.
Yeah,
which is bullshit.
teams trying to get rid of the media for day one now, which right now is just a rumor, but I don't like it. I didn't like it to begin with. Like, again, as I joked about before the episode, to steal the Christian Horner phrase, build a better fucking car. If you got if you're worried that you're going to embarrass yourself and your sponsors, then maybe talk less, build more.
Yeah, 100%. But also, most of us F1 fans probably pay for some platform to be able to watch these things.
Yes.
And so when it becomes time for season, whether it's preseason testing or preseason testing, as Barcelona was, like, I'm kind of mad that we pay money that we can't watch anything.
But
it's
I really
stupid.
think F1 is the teams are naive to a point where I don't think, in judging by their reaction of some of the things that happened in Barcelona, I think they didn't realize how many people pay attention to testing. But the fact is, F1's one of those sports. F1's one of the only sports that televises its practice sessions. If along with, some of the endurance series and things like that, but we are fans of every aspect. If there's a car on track, I want an opportunity to see that car on track.
Yeah.
And especially when it's an official testing session. Like Barcelona, fine. Okay, I get it. The teams are a little butthurt and want their own private moment for when their cars go boom, which happened a lot. Fine. But now we're into the actual testing. And I want to watch that. I was already mad enough that the first Bahrain test, we only get the last hour of every session. Now you're trying to take the last hour of that session from me. And I'm not cool with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I guess for me, it just doesn't make sense. Like, teams want to build audiences, especially in the US. And F1 has so much steam after the last few years in the US. We've got 3 US races now. We had the F1 movie, all this other stuff. Checo's back. Like, we have 2 American teams in Formula 1 again. Like, or 2 new American teams. Now we have 3 American teams in Formula 1. Well, 1 pseudo-American team. It doesn't make sense that teams would want to cannibalize their audience and their potential to grow audience by not showing sessions. Like, sure, your car blows up, it looks bad for sponsors, but so it looks bad for sponsors if your car, decides to be a bowling ball in turn 1, like you're not going to avoid your car looking bad just because you didn't televise practice or testing sessions.
Well, and the thing about it that annoys me is we're still going to find out.
Yeah.
Everything that happened in testing, we still found out.
Yeah, the race was all over the place, getting kicked out all the time.
Yeah, we know how bad the Audi was. We know how bad the Caddy was. We know about Hadger's wreck. We know about Behrman's wreck. We know about these things. You hid nothing.
We know that it looked like both Ferraris stalled, but they didn't.
Well, and the Ferrari thing is a great lesson. By denying access, you allow speculation. So something that was a very simple, we're just doing a practice start for Ferrari became a bigger issue of people thinking there was an issue because all we got to see was some faraway photo out of focus that looked like the Ferrari's breaking down in a little grainy video with no context.
Yeah, and that does more damage for the sponsors than televising anything.
Yeah. To me, there is no win from keeping these tests private. And this is purely on the team. This isn't an F1 thing. This isn't even an FIA thing. This is the teams. The teams wanted this private. And it's one of those moments where it's like, you guys are just stupid. Like at some point, we just have to say it. You're idiots. Because what you think is reality and what is actual reality aren't the same thing. Because everything you're trying to prevent happened anyway, but probably worse because we had no context.
Yeah.
And we got to hear all the stories of you chasing people off hilltops with cops threatening them.
Yep. And it wasn't even the media being chased off. It was also just like spectators.
Yeah, because once again, they underestimated how far an F1 fan will go to see F1 cars on a track. Yes, people will go to Barcelona and stand on a hillside with a camera to see their favorite teams.
I mean, I know teams weren't a big fan of last year's F175 livery unveil thing. I definitely wasn't a fan of it. I thought it was cheesy as hell. But you would think heading into new regs that teams would understand there's gonna be excitement.
You would think. And yet, here we are.
It's like, just build a better fucking car. Come on.
It's incredibly frustrating. I know I'll get over it by the time we get to the 3-day final test in Bahrain where the whole thing's televised. But I'm going to be mad until then.
Yeah.
Because I want to know what's going on. And there's not much else. That's the other thing, is you kind of have a monopoly on content. Because you had one 24-hour race. And that's pretty much all that's involved television-wise. Like NASCAR will have its Bowman Gray thing this week. Well, it was supposed to be this weekend. It'll now be later this week.
If it happens.
Because of the snowstorm. Yeah, if it happens. But it's supposed to. Their little exhibition thing. But outside of that, there's not a lot of content. WEC doesn't race till March. IMSA doesn't race again till March.
Daytona's not till the 15th.
Yeah, so you, and by then, that's when you're trying to show testing. You had a window here where nothing else was running, and you're not using it. And you have a new platform you're about to be on. What a better way to test this platform than have a low stakes test before the big test to make sure your product's running right. No.
Yeah.
We're just
even just to test the platform itself, like make sure the training wheels can come off for Bahrain, like make sure the platform works, there's no big technological issues, or the server doesn't crash because people are watching, like
that people know how to
actually get on it.
Yeah. Which is still a very confusing thing that I don't understand what's going on with.
Yeah, I still don't know.
Supposedly F1 TV's dead, but it's still not, and there's still nothing on Apple. They've never really explained what the hell's going on, so I still don't know. It would be great to know that now when it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But
instead of come first race of the season, like
it's frustrating. It's this stuff that annoys me about F1 because it's like we're so damn close, but here's our spotlight moments, and you're
fucking it up.
Yeah, you're just not taking advantage of good opportunities.
Yeah.
Because so many of us are starved for something with these new regs and we just want to see the cars. And I don't care what teams' excuses are, because at the end of the day, they're not what matters. I hate to be that crass about it, but we're what matters. The fans are what matter. I don't care if a team gets their feelings hurt, because they're not who pays the bills. Your fans do, for your extraordinary ticket prices that are more than any other motorsport in the world. We're the
Not
ones
to
who pay
mention all
that.
the merch sales.
Yes, the expensive merch, the platform service that we have to subscribe to watch it. F1 is an expensive sport to follow. So throw us a fucking cookie every now and then. Give us something.
And like the move to Apple TV was actually smart in terms of cost for people paying for F1 in a lot of cases, not every person.
Yeah.
Like obviously like the $8 tier, you had to wait. You could watch it live, or you had to wait a week or something like that to watch the race again, or
Yeah, but
like
if you were
stuff
a
like
pro
that. But like
subscriber, it's
you're
it's
saving an
awesome.
asinine amount of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're botching it. They're botching it by not televising things. They're botching it by not uh telling us giving us a timeline of when this will happen, or how it'll work, or what needs to be done. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. It's like they're like, we want to go the full mile, but they're only going 3/4 of the mile and hoping that the other quarter just kind of works out.
That's the problem when you want to do everything on your own terms and don't necessarily consider what your fans want. And
Yep.
to a point, that's why the F1 team shouldn't be making a lot of the decisions. F1 as a whole should. But that's a whole
Liberty
nother
Media
argument.
has more say. Yeah, you would think Liberty Media would have more of a say, considering they own the rights to F1 and its televised things. Like, but
And like I
apparently they
said,
don't.
I get the Barcelona thing not being televised. That's a lot of staff. That's a lot of things that you don't want to have to deal with. But they ended up having that staff there anyway, because they still had the camera shots. They still had some of their team there to do recaps. So it's like, is it that hard to live stream some stuff?
But even if they didn't televise it, but allowed media to be there, like
Yeah.
like you
Yeah,
don't
the
have to
media
do anything
blackout
extra.
completely is wild to me. But
That's the thing I'm more pissed about. Like, I didn't expect them to televise Barcelona, but I would love to be able to actually listen to or read from the sources that I enjoy reading about Formula One to actually understand what happened, and not the speculation or these half-ass grainy
yeah.
photos, or just the sound of the engine going around. You can't tell how good the car is by the sound of it. They all sound great.
Somebody
Like,
from the race on a hilltop with binoculars trying to see the cars because they finally got far enough away that the F1's secret police quit chasing them away.
yeah.
Like, anyway, now that we got that rant out of the way, let's go back to good things. So I want to talk about Haas for a minute.
Okay.
And look, we're both routine shitters on Haas.
Yes. Bring
But
back Gunther.
I'm actually, Gunther can kind of get in the bin. Because I've seen a lot of interviews with Komatsu, and I am kind of convinced Gunther was the problem.
I still think Gene's the bigger problem, but I can
You know why?
understand
You know why I
Gunther
don't
being the
think Gene's
problem.
the problem? Because I don't think Gene is involved all that much.
I mean, every decision Gunther had to make, he had to call Gene. Literally every shot and that they showed Gunther that wasn't like a sit down talk in Drive to Survive, he was on the phone with Gene.
But how many times was that because they had screwed things up and he was trying not to get fired?
That was pretty much every time, actually.
That's all I'm
Touche.
saying. When the
Touche.
ship's not sinking, you don't have to call the Coast Guard.
True.
That's all I'm saying. But Haas had an extremely successful test. They ran the third most amount of laps. The car looks solid. It looks like a fast car. The Ferrari engine's not bad at all. the Ferrari seemed like they did a pretty decent job on the engine. Now we know the Ferrari car itself looks pretty good, but there are a few reports that it might be a bit of a handful at times. But hard to say at this point in testing too much about handling dynamics of cars. But it seems like the Ferrari engine in general is good. Haas seemed to really be benefiting from the Toyota partnership. They really seem to have their own technical direction now, which they never had before. They were just Ferrari spare parts running down the track. Where now it looks like they have a real technical direction. Both drivers had a lot of good things to say, and it was, I almost compare it to what we were talking about with McLaren. It was just a solid head down, do your laps, get your data week for Haas. And for them, that's got to be a massive W, because they're kind of notorious for slow starts and early season problems.
That's fair, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing them on track. I'd say the same for every team, actually, because we haven't seen them on track.
Which, I mean, there's a lot of unknowns. All the cars look kind of dramatically different from each other. There are a lot of very different design philosophies going on, which is what kind of excited people about these regs, were that we knew people would have very different interpretations and some cool stuff would happen. I don't think we knew how cool. And so far, the cars look awesome. There's a lot of deviation in design. And I really think Haas might have something. They have a really solid driver lineup. Behrman is one of the best young drivers, if not the best young driver right now. He is incredibly impressive with the positions he dragged Haas to a few times last year. Ocon is a really solid midfield driver who has a race win under his belt. They have a really steady team, and it seems like they're finally stable. There's active communication that's working in that team, and I'm just impressed with them.
Yeah. I feel like we could potentially be impressed by Ferrari, too.
Yes. I think these cars are going to suit Lewis Hamilton a lot better.
Let's hope so, because if he retires winless in Ferrari, I'm going to be pissed.
It would be sad. If Lewis goes his entire Ferrari time with nothing but a sprint win, that's gonna be sad. Let's be real. I don't care who you're a fan of. Lewis not at least getting one win in a Ferrari would be sad. Nobody wants to see that. Like, he's had too good of a legacy to go out that way, and it'll kind of remind me of how Schumacher went out with Mercedes with a bit of a whimper. Yeah, and I was just like, I kind of wish you'd have just stayed retired. And I don't want to look back and be like, man, I wish Lewis would have just retired from Mercedes when that was over. And that's how I feel right now. And I hope that's not the case. So, I'm a Max fan. I've always been a Red Bull fan, but that doesn't mean you can't want good things for other drivers. I wanted Seb to have a good end of his career, and I really want Lewis to at least get one Ferrari win before his career's over. He earns that for what he's done for the sport. He deserves one win in Ferrari, at least, for what he has done for the sport since he's been here. And I'll be disappointed if it doesn't happen. And I'll probably blame Ferrari forever.
I would also blame Ferrari forever. Although that Ferrari reel that I sent you earlier was just absolutely hilarious. The Red
It's
Bull one
always
was
fun to make
hilarious
fun of
too.
her. Yeah, there were a couple good ones. What about you? Anyone who surprised you as far as how solid they were in testing from the limited stuff that we got?
I'll have to say again, Alpine. I didn't
Yeah,
really know what to expect with them. Not that I didn't really have any thoughts either way, whether they would be good or bad. I mean, it's new regs for everybody, so everybody has an opportunity to be good. Um, so I can't say I was surprised. I think I was just delighted to see something good for Alpine in the light of some other things that have come out about certain people within the Alpine organization. It feels good to see something good for that team.
yeah.
And then I think Red Bull looked really, really good too, from what I saw. And I mean, that's not surprising to me. Not even a little bit. I mean, they've been dominant for the last 8 years in one way or another.
See, I feel like that's where we differ, and maybe it's just pessimism, but I I I was worried Max might not win a race this year. They were giving a lot of warnings about how long of a process this might be. And I'm like, ooh, man, they're going to turn up the testing and that engine's going to be bad, isn't it?
I feel like
This is going to be Renault days bad, where it's going to take a couple years before we're a podium team again.
I think that is just a change in demeanor within the Red Bull org, because you're going from Christian Horner, who would ruthlessly hype things up, to a more engineer-led team principal in Mekis, who actually is engineering-minded and probably is also a bit more humble, well, significantly more humble than Christian Horner was, to the point where he doesn't feel the need to overhype something that might be dog shit. He's just going to be like, well, yeah, it could be good, or we really don't know. It's been a long process. Like, he has a very different brain than Christian Horner.
Well, and I think part of it too, just and maybe this is the detriment of being old and being a fan for so long, but I remember when we first switched to the turbo hybrid era, and Vettel was still with Red Bull, and the Renault engine was horrendous, and a Red Bull podium felt like a win. You know, it was like, shit, are we going to get points this weekend sometimes? And, you know, it was bad. And that was coming off of like, ooh, we won 4 world championships in a row. And, oh, God, we're terrible. And it was hard not to be like, oh, no, we're going back to another massive rule set change where the main thing is the engine, not the car. Last time we had a rule set like this, we lost at the time the greatest driver in our history because of it.
Yeah.
Like, is this going to be another case where, you know, Red Bull's coming out and we're fighting for 7th and 8th places again? But then Hadger hit the track and immediately was like, ooh, this car. Ooh, this car. And then you heard the Racing Bull guys talking about like, hey, the engine's kind of good. And then George Russell started talking about it. It's like, okay, I'm getting hyped now. I'm getting excited. Max World Drivers Championship incoming.
I was really hoping you would say, and then Hadjar hit the track, and then he hit the wall.
He did hit the wall. But you know what? That's Barcelona in the rain. last corner. I ain't even mad about it.
No, I'm not either. I just thought that would have been hilarious.
No, but the fact that Hadger actually looked good in the car gives me a lot of confidence. Like, okay, maybe we finally have a car that a second driver can drive. Not just, oh, Max is a genius driver and can drive anything. He'll drag us from the doldrums no matter what. Like, oh, maybe we have a car that our other driver can get on the podium too. And here I am, already talking myself into it, let me tell you. One test, and I'm immediately like, hey, mate, championship, here we go.
I
Copium
really
on
hope
11.
I hope that your excitement and hope doesn't get destroyed within the first 3 races.
Hey, after the
'Cause
way
you had the
last year played out,
You had the
after the
same
way last year
excitement.
played out, I'll keep my excitement beyond the first 3 races.
I don't know. Last year preseason, you were feeling the same way as you are now, and then it very quickly after 2 episodes, you're like, "Fuck this team."
Well, in fairness, we were coming off Max winning a title, and yeah, we kind of faded off at the end of the year. But I naively thought that's because we had put so much focus into the car the next year, not realizing, like, oh no, they were telling the truth. The car's dog shit. Like, I just kind of assumed Red Bull was like, no, we got to. No, they were completely telling the truth. The car was garbage, and they didn't know what to do about it. We just didn't think that was true until the races started happening, and you were like, oh, is
Now it makes
that
sense.
bad? It's that bad. And I mean, really, we didn't know that until a couple races into Sonoda, when it's like, because at first it was like, all right, Max is struggling with the car, but maybe that's just because McLaren has a really good one. And Liam, maybe he wasn't meant to be, like, maybe he came too early, didn't have enough experience. And then Sonoda got in the car and couldn't make Q1, couldn't get out of Q1. And we're like, oh, this is a steaming pile of dog shit. Okay, we're in trouble. It was very quickly like that realization of like, oh no, they were actually being conservative about how bad the car was. It's worse than they were saying, not better. I thought it was better than what they were warning us. No, they were
worse.
letting us down easy. It's way worse. So I know Mercedes is the favorite, and I know McLaren has to be second in line behind that.
Yeah.
But I also know that if you give Max a car that is second or third fastest, he can still win a world title with it.
I mean, he showed that last year.
And I
We're
hope
up until the last race.
Yeah, and now I hope that they've learned the lesson of listening to the second driver more. And maybe listening to when Max says, hey, the car's kind of shit. We should fix this. Listen to what he's saying instead of what the times say on the screen. I'm hoping that's the lesson we finally learn. Like, just because Max is fast in it doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah.
If there's issues, deal with the issues, even if the car's going fast, because that's how we got here. Because him and Checo complained about the car, but Max kept winning, so we didn't fix it because he was winning. And unfortunately, in F1, you get behind very quickly. Look at Mercedes. How many years does it take in Mercedes to climb out of the mistakes that they made? It took an entire rules era.
True.
And now we think they finally climbed out of it. Like, they lost an entire regulation cycle due to a mistake at the beginning of it that they were never able to get away from.
I wonder what team's going to make that same type of mistake that lasts an entire regulation period.
Aston Martin.
Yeah, true.
Maybe it's just my lack of faith in Honda. Just something about that car. Like, it looks good. It does. It looks cool. But I feel like the fact it showed up so late is getting a pass in the way that Williams isn't. And I feel like their problem's worse because Williams has less money and less resources. Aston has some of the best people in the industry and some of the most money in the most high-tech everything. They have no excuses. And Honda's already admitted to being behind the ball. So not only is Honda behind, but Aston is behind to the point where you have Adrian Newey making people work 60-hour weeks and being reassigned because they get burnt out and can't do it. That doesn't sound like a team that's building a car that's going to be good. That sounds like someone in chaos.
Also, just build a bad team dynamic. Like, team dynamic is just as important as the car's performance. If you have a bunch of tired engineers and tired race staff because they're working 60 hours a week every single week, that's not going to be good for the team or the car. Mistakes are going to be made.
And one thing I'm going to say is going to be controversial, but we talked about this when I was in Daytona. Adrian Newey needs a Christian Horner. Because you need someone to soften the blow of what Adrian is. Him being the team principal and not having someone who can soften his personality to staff is going to always create problems. And look, they're hemorrhaging people. This is a bad time to be losing people. They've had people who left the Red Bull project to go to Aston who are now going back to racing bulls.
But they're signing Jenson Button as an ambassador, so that makes everything great.
Yeah, well, and he better be a factory ambassador because it seems like there's a lot of turmoil within that team. I mean, you had the big shakeup that they did that put Adrian Newey as the team boss. That wasn't all that long ago. And now you're dealing with members leaving here, members getting reassigned to other positions. That's not a great look before your car ever hits the track. And then your car only makes it for one day of testing. When it first gets on track, Lance Stroll gets 4 laps in before the car breaks down. Alonso's able to get 60 laps later. But now you've done effectively 65 laps in testing, where as bad as we were talking about Audi and Cadillac got 164, I believe it was, compared to Aston's 61.
Yeah, and at least Audi and Cadillac showed up for all 3 days.
Yeah, they had 3 days of running. Aston had 1, and they only used half of it because they broke down for the other half. That's not a good look.
No. I'm curious as to how long it'll be before Lawrence Stroll regrets how much money he had to spend to get Adrian Newey. And I'm not saying that I'm a Newey hater. I just don't think Newey's the right person to be the team principal.
I love Adrian Newey, but he's not a team principal.
No, he's one of the best car designers to ever exist, but he is not a team principal.
And that's one of the few teams that I feel like needs a person like a Horner or a Toto Wolff or a Zach Brown to a point. Someone who can motivate people in positive ways. Because Adrian is very cut and dry, black and white. He is a hard worker and he expects everyone up to his standards the way that he does it. But he has an obsession that most people can't match.
Yeah. And also most people aren't making the amount of money he is. So he can work as much as he wants because he's making bags on bags. But your average engineer, they also have a life outside of the team. And like
Adrian
their
doesn't.
goals. Yeah, exactly. So it's like,
And because of mistakes that them and Honda have made, they've been doing things in a way that I don't think are going to work correctly. And maybe that's just because they put too much of a target on their back. But also, I think the switch to Honda was stupid. I really do. I think that was a cursed decision. Honda is too independable. Look at what happened with the Red Bull situation. Now Honda comes in way behind, admitting that they're behind. It just seems like a crap scenario. And I wouldn't be surprised if Aston is struggling to make Q3.
I mean, it would be off par for them, considering last year they were struggling to make it out of Q3 for at least one driver every race.
I think they're gonna struggle mightily, and maybe I'll eat my words, but I doubt it, because they're not right now. They're not in my top 5 of cars.
I feel like that's a perfect way to end it.
I agree. So next week we'll actually hopefully have a few more updates on what the hell's going on with testing and everything involved, and maybe a better idea of some pecking order. Hopefully. One could hope. And on what's going to be televised and what won't. So,
yeah.
As always,
how we can watch it televised.
Yes, exactly. And what the Apple situation's going to be, and how F1 TV is going to be integrated, and all that stuff that they haven't done well on. But as always, thanks everyone so much for tuning in. We will be back with you next week. As always, I'm Josh.
I'm Tyler.
And thank you so much for tuning in.